It's that time of the year, and if you're like me, you're very excited to know what Phil Steele thinks about the season. The question is, where does he have our Clemson Tigers ranked? We're going to talk about that and more today on Clemson Football Live. It is a beautiful Friday, June the 21st. Welcome to what is a beautiful Friday. Hope you'll subscribe if you're brand new here. If you've been watching for a while and you're like, I never did that subscription thing. I hope you'll subscribe. It is free, and it's the easiest way to support the channel, and so on. This time of the year, all the publications begin to trickle out, Lindy's as well as Athlon's. I actually created a video a couple of weeks ago talking about Athlon and where they had Clemson ranked. They had Clemson ranked number 15. I talked about that, but really the one everybody really pays attention to is Phil Steele's book. Phil Steele will give you information overload, but what I really like about his publication is it gives you a lot of details, a lot of easily accessible details. And so he released his prediction for the college football season. And I'm telling you, man, unless you have a really bad bowel movement and you end up on the toilet forever, it's going to take some time for you to fumble through this. But it's not just a bunch of crappy info. It's great information, and it actually gives you a look back on other seasons. So I'm just going to shut up and talk about where he has Clemson ranked. So let's go ahead and start with that question. Where does he have Clemson ranked in the preseason? So Phil Steele is predicting that Clemson is the number 12 team in the country. Now, I felt like Athlon was closer at number 15, somewhere in there, especially where Clemson is at within this era of Clemson football. I really feel like they need to be underrated more than overrated. I don't think that that's going to help anyone here. But Phil Steele is a trusted source and someone who has had some great predictions in the past. Of course, he's had his misses as well because he's a human being. But I will tell you that number 12 seems kind of high for me. Okay, it does seem high for me, but he has Clemson ranked at number 12. I'm trying to find the top 25, and for some reason, I scrolled right past it, and I was going to read what he said about our Tigers and why he gave them the ranking of number 12. I will tell you this. He highlighted that Dabo has been beat up over the transfer portal. He talked about it. He talked about how he's been smacked around by the media, how he's been smacked around by a lot of people who are just overlooking the poor coaching hires on the offensive side of the football. But the truth is, Dabo Swinney, even with all of those things that you could pick at him, rightfully so or not, he still has a team that, in Phil Steele's prediction, could potentially land in the top 12. And that could put them, and now, of course, this is a preseason ranking, obviously, could put them maybe in the playoff, maybe. I mean, that's where number 12 is at. Again, this is the preseason ranking. So let's talk about the individual units. And maybe you're sitting there going, individual units, what do you mean? Phil Steele ranks the individual units, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, etc. Now, you're not going to see Clemson, and in fact, I'll just share the numbers. Phil Steele's top 24 individual units for quarterbacks, Clemson is not ranked in the top 15. They're ranked number 22. So used to for the Tigers, that was number 2, number 1. He has Clemson at number 22 for quarterback units. That means the whole room. For running backs, he has Clemson at number 40. Now you step back and you say, hold on, Phil Maffa. Well, I'm not knocking the running backs in the running back room, but a year ago you did have Shipley, you did have Dominique Thomas. A lot of people would underplay Dominique Thomas, but we saw him run the rock in the spring spring game, the guy looked incredible. He's talented. Knowing that a guy like that's back there, that definitely beefs up that room. So he has our running back room. Where did I say? At number 40. Now, he did not say that about Phil, once again, about Phil Moffa. He's talking about the room as a whole. For our wide receivers, where does he have Clemson ranked? He has them ranked number 32. It wasn't too long ago that would be number 2 or number 1, maybe number 3 on a bad year. And they're at number 32. Now, this is where you're going to be shocked. His offensive line. So, his offensive line unit ranking. For some of you, you're like, well, if we didn't do it for running backs, maybe quarterback room, we're definitely not going to be. He has our offensive line as a unit ranked number 9. And he says last year, Walker Parks, and he uses different synonyms and so on. I don't know what this means. Basically, Walker Parks and Marcus Tate, he credits them with being one of the main reasons why this is going to be a good season, right? For our offensive line. Now, you can't tell me that Matt Luke, though he didn't mention Matt Luke here, you can't tell me that Matt Luke doesn't have something to do with this. Right off the bat. Right off the bat. So, folks, I will tell you this. Maybe that could give us some comfort. For some of you who hope is a strategy. For me, hope is not a strategy when it comes to football. We're talking about football. We're not talking about someone who is sick and you hope they get better, or maybe there's a bad situation in real life happening and you hope it. You need to hold on to hope for that. Folks, football is at first a pastime that we just used to, pastime. And football is a game. So to win a game, you don't hope, you have strategy. But for those of you who hope is your strategy, even with a game, this should give you some hope. It makes me feel okay. I can't say better, but okay, that out of all of the units on the offensive line, or not the offensive line, but on the offensive side of the ball, Clemson's offensive line is 9th. Now let's swing over to the defensive side of the football. He has Clemson ranked number 17 for the defensive line. And now I'll tell you this, it's difficult to cover all of these teams at one time. It really, really is. But this is a miss, I believe, by Phil Steele's team. It's just not Phil Steele. He has people he's working for him. I think this is a miss because Peter Woods and TJ Parker alone, I don't care if they are young, are unflippin' believable. Unflippin' believable. And then you add in the other players that are coming in and are there already. I think this is a miss. I believe Clemson's defensive line is in the top 15. But hey, teach their own. Next up, this is going to be interesting. Linebackers. He has Clemson number 8. He talks about Barrett Carter. He talks about Wade Woodis. He talks about adding Sammy Brown. That's a pretty good take there. Number 8, when you think of the people who's in front of them, at linebacker, Georgia, Tennessee, Iowa, Oklahoma, you can't blame him there for ranking them where he has them ranked. So that's not too bad at all for us. Defensive backs, he has Clemson ranked number 4. I want you to think about this. This team loses Andrew Makuba to Texas. He's going back there. I heard he has a child there. Probably some of that money going back to Texas. Can't blame him for that. Of course, he's from Austin, that Austin area. Can't blame him for that. But you lose him. You lose Nate Wiggins to the draft. Nate Wiggins is just a dog, man. That guy can play football. Part of that incredible top 5 2021 recruiting class that we had. But you lose those 2 guys and you go, okay, defensive backs are definitely falling apart. Nope, number 4. Number 4. He talks about Avion Terrell. You got to talk about Khalil Barnes. You have to talk about these newbies that's coming in. Tavoy Fagan. I mean, good grief, guys. There's just so much dominance there in the defensive back room. And there's so much competition there that you just can't help but smile. Like if you come out to play a team and they want to try to throw the football on you, and you think that they're going to pick on your defensive backs because they're young, yeah, you're wrong. And then of course R.J. Mickens coming back. That's a big deal for Clemson. That's a big deal for Clemson. But he has Clemson's defensive backs ranked number 4. That's a big deal. Special teams. For some of you who's like, you're always negative. You're really gonna love this. When I looked at special teams, I didn't even. I was like, there's no way they're in the top anything. And I just looked towards the bottom, and there we are at number 67. By the way, he ranks up to 70, all the way down to 70. So just want to let you know that, yeah, I was right to do that. The special teams is ranked number 67. Now let's talk about Clemson as far as the ACC. What does Phil Steele have to say about Clemson, Clemson's forecast? Well, he actually has Clemson. Let's see. Has them ranked number 1 in the ACC forecast. Says Phil's 2024 forecast. If you have the digital, by the way, if you have the digital version of this, it's page 122. Feel like we're at church and they're calling out the hymn numbers. Sing a stanza from page 138, bringing in the sheaves. Anyway, the Tigers have won 7 of the last 9 ACC titles. Last year they opened just 4-4, but in their 4 losses, he goes into some stat. Coach Swinney said, if Clemson was a stock, you should buy big, and the Tigers won their last 5 games. This year, Clemson has 14 starters back, but does draw a tough ACC schedule, facing 4 of the top 6 teams. The Tigers, let me see. They face FSU and Virginia Tech on the road and Georgia in the opener, but are still very talented and return to their normal spot at the top of the ACC. I view their lack of using a portal as a sign they have solid talent and maybe the best team unity in the country. I have thoughts on that, but I'm going to leave that alone. Now, here's what's interesting about this, and this is what should, kind of bother you people who are paying attention to top players in the country, where they're at. When you get into Phil Steele's first-team All-ACC team. First-team All-ACC team for offense and defense. You have one player from the offense, that's Blake Miller, offensive tackle. And then you have Barrett Carter. And that's it. You get to second-team All-ACC. You have Phil Maffa and Walker Parks. And then on the defense, you have Clemson's Peter Woods, right? This should bother you to a point, because there was a time when Clemson dominated everywhere. I can't remember which year it was, but man, it was almost half of Clemson's team was on the first team All-ACC, and the rest of the half was second team. And you even had the water boy fourth team. So it's kind of bothersome when you're trying to rate talent and when you're trying to figure out the dominance of it, because if you go outside of the ACC and you play teams, which you're going to play Georgia right off the bat, but you play the Ohio States, you play the Alabamas, that's to be determined what they're going to be like this year. Texas and Oregon, you kind of hesitate to what those games would look like. Now, maybe if you get them later in the season, maybe some people have gained some continuity and hit like a hot streak, maybe some of Clemson's players would actually be ranked higher. Again, this is preseason, but again, a lot of these guys have been playing a decent amount of time. I'm going to get in here and say hello to a few people. My God, Eric, I've actually been on the toilet this whole time. I'm still on the 2014 edition of Phil Steele's book. By the way, Eric made this sign for me. Eric is incredible. Go check out his business, The Sawmill Shop. You should Google it, The Sawmill Shop. Eric, if you get any sales, I'm telling you, Eric, you could sell these for like $70 or $80 a piece. People would buy it. This thing is, literally, it's big. You're crazy. Jay says the tight end room's the best in America. Let's see. Intelligent Savage. becoming excited for this year's team. Overall, I just need CK to make good decisions, keep the football out of harm's way. I definitely get that, my friend. Thanks for being in here. Athens Tiger, the biggest question for this season, will the O-line give CK the time he needs to make good decisions and throws? I'm telling you, folks, if the offensive line can step up and improve, I believe that it's going to fix some issues across the board. I mean, really, the offensive line is the nucleus of the offense, and a lot of people go, "Duh." Yeah, but when you're analyzing, you're troubleshooting a problem, you have to really go to what's the start of the problem. What is it? If you sprain your ankle, all of a sudden it can mess up your knee. If it messes up your knee, it can mess up your hip, like something like that. Where did the problem start? Your ankle. So if we can remedy the ankle, guess what? You may avoid that knee problem, or at the very least the hip problem. So we see this all the time. Athens Tiger, I agree with you 100%. See that symbol beside Athens Tiger name? That means Athens Tiger is a Clemson Football Live supporter on a monthly basis. Join and either pays $3 or $5 per month. I do appreciate it, Athens Tiger folks. If you want to support my channel on a monthly basis, it's so cheap. Parker Henderson said, I don't even notice it coming out of my bank account. John Setton, Big John said, hey, I don't notice it even coming out. Folks, I do appreciate it. I'm just a guy who, between meetings at work, I get on here and I do shows. And then I go back to work because God's blessed me to be able to work remotely. I don't mean that in a bragging way. I mean that, and I am blessed and I'm very thankful for it. And I try to have some fun with my spare time, and I hope you enjoy it as well. So, Athens Tiger, thank you so much. The Ohio Podcast, Eric, my old buddy, Eric Boggs over there. Eric, I have not responded to your email, but we're going to get together next week. I want to have Eric Boggs from the Ohio Podcast come on the channel. Also, he's the one who invited me to part of the College Huddle. And that's just a group of podcasters and YouTubers who represent their college team. And so he asked me to represent Clemson. So thank you for doing that. I'm going to have him on here. We're going to talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes, and I'm going to talk about Ryan Day. Can you really fire a guy? Because, I mean, he hasn't messed up everything. Anyway, we'll get to that next week. Thanks, Eric. Hopping in here, I'll go through a couple of quick questions. Let me see. One more second. The Clemson from Bronco in Virginia. The Clemson transfer portal argument is easy cannon fodder for the media. Lack of development on offense is the problem. Turnovers and protection of the quarterback will help this team go far. Yeah. I am not against using the transfer portal to bridge the gap in talent here and there. I'm not against that. A lot of people misunderstands me, or they just put their fingers in their ear, and for their argument's sake, they overlook it. I believe that you can use it, but go ahead and start at those high-paid coaches that you're paying very well, right? I know that I said that twice there, but come on. You're paying them very well. They're supposed to develop talent, and we used to develop 3 stars into 4 and 5 stars in NFL talent. That's not the case anymore on the offensive side of the ball as a whole. Okay, changes are coming with Matt Luke, great and wonderful. We need to fix those other issues too, so we can be high-powered offense and complement it. Helped out that defense, but I agree with you, my friend. All right, let's get back to Phil Steele's book. So let's talk about what he says about Clemson. All right. He talks about Clemson. This is on page 124. I'm just going to read his forecast as much as I can. He uses a lot of synonyms and so on, so I might have to skip over some of that. In 2022, my computer called for 34 points per game, and they had 33. Last year, 7 starters were back for new OC Garrett Riley. This time it called for 34 points a game and 423 yards per game, but they came up short at 30 points per game and 403 yards per game. Pause right there. 4 points would have helped in certain games. Also, you could say, well, it was the other way, Brian. Wake Forest, that Wake Forest game was very blah, and it was homecoming. They could have lost that game. That's right. You're 100% right. Riley in his second year, as is Cade Klubnik as the starter. And they have an upgraded wide receiver core and veteran O-line that will help top last year's number. So Phil Steele believes that they're going to do better this coming year. By the way, I'd love to see his formulas. That would be cool. Defense. Last year, 8 starters were back, and my computer called for them to allow 274 yards per game. They allowed 288 yards per game with 21.1 points per game. This year, Clemson does lose 5 NFL draft picks, including a number 1 and number 2, and all 4 starting defensive linemen. Sweeney has done a remarkable job recruiting defensive linemen, and they remain a nasty group up front, and I feel they have the best defense in the ACC this year. Let's pause there. I don't believe that it's only one of the best defenses in the ACC. I think it's one of the top 15, top 10 in the country. Why I would not automatically say top 10 is because, remember, folks, there's a lot of youth on the team. So even though they're unbelievably talented, you have to remember that sometimes youth is going to do youthful things, and that creates young mistakes. And so you're not going to throw away everything that they do because they are young. But at the same time, you can't overemphasize their talent while just, conveniently excluding that they're young. When you have young players who are, no matter how good they are, somebody on the offensive side of the football from an opponent they're going to play that's good is going to take advantage of those youthful mistakes, some of the lack of experience. So, but I think right here, one thing that I would love for Phil to insert here, Dabo's coaching hires on the defensive side of the football is what's created this mindset that Clemson's defense is nasty and the player development is incredible. Because they've recruited pretty solid on the offensive side of the football. No matter what anyone tells you, they have. But the development hasn't been there. That's why I talk about this, folks. And some of you are like, but you're just being mean. And I need hope. What you need to hope is that Sweeney makes more Matt Luke hires on the offensive side of the football. And also hope that one day we can get a time machine where we can go back in time and show Dabo Sweeney. So what your team's going to look like if you hire a bunch of those former players and coaches that has never coached at this level before. This is what's going to happen. So go ahead and hire on the offensive side like you hired on the defensive side, with mostly extremely tenured, extremely well experienced coaches. I'm still scratching my head on that one. But anyway, 2024, let's read what Phil says here. In 2022, for the first time, Sweeney lost both coordinators. They lost at Notre Dame, then at home versus South Carolina, breaking their 40 home game win streak in the bowl for a second 3-loss season. Last year, they were narrowly the favorite to win the ACC at Media Day. It had a very frustrating year. Clemson opened up 4-4 in their 4 losses, had an amazing 96-60 blah 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 edge, and the loss to Florida State. Never trailed in regulation and missed a field goal at with no time remaining. Cannot put that on the kicker, folks. The guy wasn't even on the team, and he's just boom here. Going down here, let's see. They do face Georgia in the opener, must play Florida State and Virginia Tech on the road, but should reach double-digit wins and are one of my favorites to get back to the top of the ACC, a place they've ruled for 7 of the past 9 years. Of course, the starting lineup is down here. I'm telling you, I love this book. I absolutely love this book. They did misspell Bryant Wesco's name. I just noticed that. But a lot of great... just great information overall. Some stuff you might go, I disagree with that, or I don't know about that. But overall, it's a really, really, really solid book, and you're able to keep up with the starters. You're able to easily keep up with who's behind them. It's easy to go back. And one of the things I love about this too is at the bottom of the team page. So it's a 2-pager. One is the side where he breaks down each position. Then he goes back to their stats and some of the stats from last year. But he goes back to, here you go back to 2019. You go back to 2019 and you can see the results of that season. You can see the results of 20, 21, 22, and 23. Now, folks, for those of you who, are upset at me for just talking about reality, I will tell you this. What's up, Parker Henderson? See you there? Parker Henderson is not only a friend, but he's also a supporter of the channel. Thanks for hopping in here, my friend. Hope you're having a good day. Ruby Ridge, I got to point this out. Like the righteous and positive ways, also waiting on a Turner video. Ruby Ridge has a running joke on my comment page, and it's every video, where he brings up Cole Turner. Now, he's not making fun of Cole Turner. No. It's just how Dabo, you'll be talking about how great Tyler Brown did last year, and out of nowhere, it brings up Cole Turner. If we can get Cole back, we'll be fine. And it's like, look, I understand you and his dad was friends, and that's a wonderful story. You've taken care of his boys, and that relationship there, I'm not going to take a swipe at that. But, man, you're overcompensating. Like, you're overcompensating. If I was Cole Turner, I would even be going to him going, Coach, I love you. I appreciate everything you've done. But, man, just tone it down on me. Just tone it down. I appreciate, just tone it down. So it's just like, yeah, I know we have Randy Moss, but my goodness, we get Cole Turner back. Man, there will be. It's like, oh. Anyway, Ruby Ridge leaves some of the best comments there. Let's get back to this. What I was saying about looking at the stats and looking at the schedule, you're going to see the backslide of Clemson. You're just sliding backwards. I mean, you're going to see it. You're going to see it. And listen to me. It does not mean that Clemson football era, the era of winning and the winning is over. But if something does not give, the dominance will be over. And that is something that I'm trying to convey to some people. I'm asking you to step back and look. I know that, I've talked about this. I'm not going to go in on Sweeney. I don't want Sweeney fired. I've made that very, very clear. But there's some of you, you don't understand that he does need to change some things. He does need to change some things, and some of those things he has changed. Hiring Garrett Riley, hiring Matt Luke, great, wonderful. Continue on the offensive side of the football. We need the very best minds on that side of the football influencing these minds, because you don't have to listen to a YouTuber in his bonus room who's making videos on a channel that he just created one day, just to talk about a team that he loves. All you have to do is pull up the seasons and how they ended for the past 3 years, and you'll see it whether you want to see it or not. I mean, you can get mad at me, and you can say I'm what's wrong in the Clemson community and that I'm spewing negativity and that I'm being a spoiled brat, but I'm sorry, I can't. I am literate. And I can read right here, 10-3, 11-3, 9-4, and almost any time you play a team who has a lot of talent and they have good schemers. What is that? Coaching. They lose. Whether it's by 3 points or it's by 20, they lose. The LSU game was on last night. There was a replay of the LSU Clemson National Championship team. My son, he was younger then. He's 17 now. He's about to turn 18. He wasn't into college football as much then. He looked up there, and it was like 9.5 minutes left in the game. We were up 17-7. He goes, I forgot that y'all were up by 10. I went, yep. And this is where the coaching malfeasance came in. This is where the complacency came in. Oh, well, it was just that LSU team. What happened the next year when Ohio State beat the crap out of them? Well, Tony was sick. You mean the same Tony that forsook the run in the LSU game? What I'm trying to get across to you folks is complacency crept into Clemson. And you can look at these results. I'm pointing at my screen. It's page 125 at the bottom of it. Is this of the digital book? You can see the decline. Clemson can still turn this thing around and become a top four team that can go in and truly make a run for the national championship. Hear me say that at the 29, almost 30-minute mark. Please hear that. Don't hear anything else. They can. But they need to act now. And hopefully, with the additions of Matt Luke and the addition of Garrett Riley, and maybe in the future, maybe the addition of an incredible quarterback, maybe we can get back there. So, not all is lost in Clemson, South Carolina. It is just, well, time to move now. Try to catch some more. Let me see. Going through here, catch a couple more comments. Intelligent Savage 629. No, not at all. We get stronger when we acknowledge weaknesses and do something about them. So I, for one, hope you and others keep the pressure on. Let's go Tigers. Bronco in Virginia says analytics and records do not lie. And Bronco in Virginia says, stop running the ball in the LSU game. I think ETN had one touch in fourth quarter. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And why do us people bring this up? It's because if we respect Coach Sweeney, we need to keep challenging him in a good way. Like, we don't need to be vile. Remember, he has a wife and kids. I don't care if they are grown up. There's no need to be vile. But we do need to remind him, Coach, I mean, come on, man. You've got something really, really good here. And yeah, you did build it. And yeah, you're right. We didn't sniff a national championship for 35 years until you got here. But at this rate, we're not going to sniff another national championship for another 35 years. We're going to be a good team who gets 10 wins. Everybody puts a half-medicated smile on their face, knowing in the back of their mind that we are not going to win the national championship. So I believe Dabo Swinney, out of respect, if you truly have respect for him, you need to challenge him. So anyway, this book is fantastic. I hope you'll go out and get it. I did the digital download for $20. It is fantastic. I don't know if I can share it. I want to show very little of it because, Phil did put his hard-earned money and time and everything. In fact, I'm not even going to do that because I don't want to get in any trouble. But Phil Steele, congratulations again on a fantastic book. Maybe number 12 is high for me. I think we're a little lower than that. But at this point, I would rather underrate the Tigers than overrate them. But Phil Steele, as always, you deliver. I do appreciate it. This incredible book. Everybody go check it out. I don't know Phil. I've never met him. I know some people who does know him. Mark Rogers, definitely. But go check it out. Folks, I hope you will subscribe. It's free if you want to support on somebody just made a comment here. And I just read it because I had a squirrel moment. But if you want to support on a monthly basis, join buttons below here, $3, $5 per month. I appreciate y'all. You take care of yourself. I hope you have a wonderful Friday. We're getting closer and closer to college football season. As always, go Tigers.